I need you to do one simple thing right now. Take off one sock, just one. Then press 2 fingers firmly into the skin just above your ankle and hold them there for 15 seconds. Lift them away and look. If you see a pale dent that holds for 30 seconds, a minute, sometimes longer, before the skin slowly fills back in, then please keep listening, because what you are looking at is not a salt problem. It is not simply age, and despite what so many people over 60 have been told, in most cases it is not a heart problem either. It is a drainage problem, and the system responsible is one no doctor ever sat down and explained to me. The water is already pooling in your legs right now, drawn quietly into the tissue around your ankle and calf all day while you sat. And tonight, when you lie down, that same fluid is going to flood your bloodstream, exhaust your kidneys, rob you of sleep, and quietly stress your heart through the night. I lived with this for years, and I am here to show you the 5-minute habit that finally drained it. I also want to share my secrets to a long and healthy life that surpass current medical knowledge before I say goodbye. I am 105 years old. Every single evening, without fail, they would swell. By dinner time, I could press my thumb into the skin just above my ankle bone and watch a little white dent sit there, staring back at me like an accusation. My shoes stopped fitting by 4:00 in the afternoon. My rings would get tight enough to worry me, and I would lie down at night and wake up 2, 3, sometimes 4 times to go to the bathroom, exhausted and confused and a little bit frightened every single time my doctor ordered an echocardiogram, an ultrasound of the heart. The results came back and he told me my heart looked fine. My ejection fraction was 62%, completely normal. And I remember sitting in that office feeling relieved for about 45 seconds before I realized, if my heart is fine, then why are my ankles still doing this? He gave me a diuretic, a water pill. I took that water pill for 6 months. 6 months of running to the bathroom 10 times a day. 6 months of being so dehydrated by early afternoon that I could barely think straight. 6 months of skipping social outings because I was afraid I would not make it to a restroom in time. And at the end of those 6 months, I pressed my thumb into my ankle and watched the same white dent, the same pitting edema stare back at me. Nothing had changed. We were treating the wrong compartment entirely. Before I tell you what actually worked, here is what I need from you right now. Leave a comment below and tell me your age and whether you have pitting edema in one leg or both. Just those 2 things. I read every single comment, and your answer helps me understand exactly who I am talking to. And if you are not already subscribed, please do that right now, because what I am about to share took me years of failed treatments and a wedding trip to Colorado to finally figure out, and you deserve to have it clearly explained. I want you to understand something. When you are 68 years old and you are swollen and exhausted, and your doctor has run the tests and the tests say you are fine and you still feel terrible, there is a very specific kind of loneliness that settles in. You start to wonder if it is in your head. You start to wonder if this is simply what getting old feels like, and maybe you should stop making a fuss about it. I am here today to tell you it is not in your head, and you should not stop making a fuss. Because what nobody told me, not my doctor, not the cardiologist who reviewed my echo, not the pharmacist who filled my prescriptions every month, was that my body had 2 drainage systems, not one. Most people only ever hear about the first one, the blood. Arteries carry fresh blood out from the heart. Veins carry the used blood back. That system has a pump, your heart, and it runs every second of your life, whether you do anything to help it or not. But there is a second system. It is called the lymphatic system. And here is the thing that changed everything for me when I finally learned it. It has no pump, not a single one. Lymph is a pale, clear fluid that leaks constantly out of the tiny blood vessels in your tissues. It bathes every cell in your body. It picks up cellular waste, dead bacteria, excess protein, and critically interstitial fluid, which is the excess water that has accumulated in your tissue spaces. Then it carries all of that through a completely separate set of lymph vessels and returns it to the bloodstream, 2 full layers of fluid every single day. But those lymph vessels have no heart attached. They have no engine. They move only when you move. Every step you take, every time your calf muscle contracts, every time you flex your ankle, you are squeezing those lymph vessels and pushing the fluid upward and out. Stop moving and the whole lymphatic drainage system stops. Sit in a recliner for 3 hours after dinner and the conveyor belt simply halts. The fluid just sits there in your ankles, accumulating a teaspoon at a time, going nowhere. When you are 30 years old, this is not a serious problem. Your lymph vessels are elastic. The valves inside them are crisp and tight. A short walk can restart the whole system in minutes. But after 60, 3 things happen all at once. The lymph vessels stiffen, the valves begin to leak, and the connective tissue around your ankles loses its own elasticity. So interaisle fluid seeps out faster and drains slower, and the reservoir just keeps growing. The diuretic my doctor gave me could not fix this. A diuretic pulls water out of the bloodstream, but my fluid was not in my bloodstream. It was in my tissues. This is why the pill did not work. Now I need to pause here because I am a responsible woman and I have outlived enough people to know that not every swollen ankle is a plumbing problem. If your swelling comes on suddenly in just one leg and that leg is painful, warm and red, please stop breathing and call your doctor today. That can be a blood clot and it is serious. If both legs are swollen and you are having trouble breathing, especially when you lie flat or you wake up gasping in the night, that is your heart telling you it needs help right now, not next week. If your swelling comes with rapid weight gain and foamy urine, your kidneys may need attention. These situations are not what I am talking about today. What I am talking about is the gradual symmetrical evening, worse and morning, better swelling that millions of people over 60 are living with every single day, quietly assuming it is just part of aging. It does not have to be. I figured out the clue entirely by accident. I had a granddaughter getting married out in Colorado, and I flew out for the week. I walked everywhere that trip, museums, restaurants, parks. At the end of every single day that week, I looked down at my ankles, and they were fine. Better than fine. I came home and told my doctor something is different when I travel and walk more. My ankles are actually better. He nodded. And a few months later, I found my way to a clinician who understood lymphatic drainage, and she explained it so clearly I almost laughed out loud. The walking was not incidental. The walking was the treatment. So, let me tell you what I changed, the 5th step in the protocol. And the one I want to start with, cause almost nobody talks about it, is manual calf strokes. After I complete the legs up wall sequence, I do 10 slow upward strokes on each calf, starting at the ankle using the flat of my fingers, stroking firmly but gently up toward the knee, always toward the heart, never downward. This is a simplified form of what clinicians call manual lymphatic drainage, and it physically moves interstitial fluid from the tissues into the lymph capillaries where the lymphatic drainage system can carry it away. Most people have never heard of this. it takes 2 minutes. When I do it consistently after the legs up sequence, I feel the need to use the bathroom within about 10 to 15 minutes. That is the fluid that would otherwise have woken me at 2:00 in the morning. At 4:00, at 5:00, I am draining it on purpose while I am awake and in control instead of letting my kidneys scramble all night to process nocturnal polyuria. The fourth step is all the legs up wall sequence, and this is the anchor of the entire evening routine. 90 minutes before I go to bed, I lie down on my bed and put my legs up against the wall. Heels higher than my hips higher than my heart, at roughly a 90 degrees angle. I stay there for 15 minutes. During those 15 minutes, I do slow ankle circles, 10 in each direction, and then alternating ankle flexes, 20 of them. Then I place both hands flat on my belly and I breathe slowly deeply through my nose, my belly rising with every breath for 3 full minutes. This is not meditation, though it is peaceful. The deep diaphragmatic breathing activates something called the thoracic duct, which is the main drainage vessel of your entire lymph system. It sits right behind your diaphragm. Every deep breath you take is literally pumping your lymph. The thoracic duct depends on pressure changes in your chest cavity to move fluid, and diaphragmatic breathing creates exactly those pressure changes. Your breath is your pump. The third step is a 5. I not walk before dinner every single day without fail. Not a workout, just a walk around the yard or around the house if the weather is bad. 5 minutes of actual walking activates the deep calf muscle pump in a way that seated ankle pumps simply cannot replicate. The calf muscle pump is what squeezes the lymph vessels and pushes lymph upward against gravity toward the thoracic duct. It is the most powerful mechanical driver of venous return and lymphatic flow in the lower body, and it only activates when you actually walk. This one step, if you do nothing else, will produce measurable improvement in pitting edema within 2 weeks. The second step is hourly calf pumps during the day. Every hour during the day that I am sitting, and yes, even at 100, I sit quite a bit, I do 20 calf pumps. Heels on the floor, toes lifting up and back down, or if I am feeling strong, I stand and rise up onto the balls of my feet and drop back down 20 times. This is not exercise, this is maintenance, this is keeping the lymphatic drainage conveyor belt running. The lymph vessels only move fluid when the surrounding muscles contract. When you sit still for an hour, the system effectively pauses. 20 calf pumps restarts it. It takes 30 seconds. The first step, the foundation that everything else rests on, is morning ankle pumps done before your feet touch the floor. Every morning before my feet touch the ground, while I am still lying in bed, I do 30 ankle pumps. I point my toes down, then flex them back up toward my face 30 times. It takes less than a minute. This wakes up the lymphatic drainage system after 8 hours of stillness, so that when I stand up, the interstitial fluid that has drained overnight does not rush all at once back down into my legs. Within a week of starting this full sequence, my sock marks were gone by morning. Within 2 weeks, I was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. Within 3 weeks, I was wearing shoes I had not been able to wear in 2 years. I also made a few quiet changes to what I ate. I started drinking more water throughout the day because dehydration actually makes lymph thicker and more sluggish. I started eating a small handful of dark berries most days, blueberries, blackberries, whatever was in season, because the compounds in them strengthen the walls of small blood vessels and reduce the rate at which fluid leaks into the tissues in the first place. I made sure I was eating enough protein because low protein levels in the blood allow fluid retention to worsen, and many older adults are mildly deficient without knowing it. And I cut back quietly on the hidden sodium, not the salt shaker, but the canned soups, the deli meats, the store-bought bread, the condiments. Those are where the sodium hides, and sodium pulls water into your tissues and holds it there. I also stop sitting in my recliner for 3 hours after dinner. Those evening hours are when your legs pull the most fluid, and 3 hours of immobility right after your largest meal creates exactly the wrong conditions for overnight lymphatic drainage. Now I get up at least twice during an evening of television and walk around the house. It takes 2 minutes. It makes a real difference. Long. Now I promised you something more today than ankle exercises. And I intend to deliver on that promise, because here is what 32 years of teaching children, 51 years of marriage, 100 years of living, and a fair amount of careful observation have taught me. The protocol I just described, the ankle pumps, the calf pumps, the 5-minute walk, the legs up the wall, the manual strokes, all of that is real and it works. But in my honest estimation, the physical part of health is only about 30% of the story. The other 70% lives somewhere that no echocardiogram can measure. I have known people, strong people, people who exercised and ate carefully and did everything right on paper, who got sick and stayed sick, or got old and shrank quickly because something inside them went dark, a bitterness they held on to too long, a loneliness they would not admit to, a sense that the world no longer had any particular use for them. And I have known people in genuinely difficult physical circumstances who lived with a brightness and a steadiness that seemed almost unreasonable given everything they were carrying. And those people, almost without exception, shared a few things in common. They were sincere, not performatively cheerful. I am talking about sincerity, the willingness to mean what you say and say what you mean, to be as much as possible the same person in private that you are in public. That kind of integrity, the alignment between what you feel and what you do, takes an enormous amount of invisible work, but it releases an even more enormous amount of invisible tension. And that tension, held in the body over decades, does damage in ways that no blood test will ever show you. They were honest with themselves first of all, the hardest honesty there is, honest about what they regretted and what they needed to make right, honest about what frightened them, honest about what they wanted from whatever time they had left. They were patient, not passive. Patient with themselves on the days when the body does not cooperate. Patient with other people who have not yet arrived at the understanding they have arrived at. Impatience is a form of fear, and fear is exhausting in a way that shows up eventually in the joints, and the gut, and the sleep, and the blood pressure. Patience is not giving up. Patience is trusting that you are still on your way. What I want to add here, because the science behind this is now specific enough to matter, is that the same stress hormones produced by chronic bitterness, loneliness, and purposelessness directly worsen the conditions we have been discussing. Chronically elevated cortisol increases vascular permeability, which means it accelerates the rate at which fluid leaks out of blood vessels and into the interstitial tissue spaces, worsening pitting edema. It disrupts the parasympathetic nervous system activity that diaphragmatic breathing is working to restore, and it impairs the lymph vessels themselves, reducing their contractile strength and slowing lymphatic drainage even when you are doing all the physical work correctly. People who report a strong sense of purpose and social connection show measurably lower resting cortisol, faster lymphatic clearance, and significantly better venous return in studies of vascular aging. The 5-step protocol fights fluid retention from the outside. Inner peace fights it from the inside. Both matter, but perhaps the most powerful thing, the thing I would press into the hands of every person reading this if I could, is this: find someone to help. The research on this is clear and has been for decades. People who feel useful live longer, get sick less often, recover faster, and report significantly higher levels of daily well-being than people who feel that their contribution to the world has concluded. Purpose is not a luxury for the young. It is a biological necessity at every age, and perhaps most urgently at mine. You do not need to start a foundation. You need to find one person regularly who is better off because you showed up. A neighbor who does not have anyone to talk to. A grandchild who needs someone to listen without judgment. A friend who is struggling with something you have already walked through. The act of reaching out, of choosing to be useful rather than waiting to feel useful, reduces the stress hormones that inflame tissue and disrupt sleep, increases the compounds that support immunity and mood, and gives your nervous system a reason to calm down. And right here before I finish, please share this video with one person whose doctor told them their swelling was a heart problem, or whose water pill has never quite worked. Just send it, no explanation needed, and if you have not yet subscribed, please do that now because there is more coming and I want you to have it. Now, here is exactly what I want you to do starting tonight. First, do the pitting edema test right now and write down your result. Second, begin the 5-step protocol tonight, starting with manual calf strokes and the legs up wall sequence before bed. Third, do your morning ankle pumps tomorrow before your feet touch the floor. Fourth, set a timer every hour tomorrow and do your calf pumps. Fifth, take your 5-minute walk before dinner. Test your pitting edema again in 2 weeks. The change will be measurable. Leave your age in your city in the comments below. Share this with someone whose ankles swell by evening. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Start tonight. Your lymphatic system has been waiting for you to give it something to work with.